The biggest, most iconic and prestigious race in the world, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Nowadays, it's part of the World Endurance Championship and definitely the highlight of the season. What makes Le Mans the race to watch? How is it different to WEC? That's what we're talking about today. I'm Sebi,
And my name is Teresa.
and this is the Everything Endurance Racing Podcast.
That was a very nice intro, Sebi, and I really like that you said that it's the 24 Hours of Lemons and not Le Mans.
Inside joke
We're
there.
not
Well, not
we're not
that
French.
inside, but
We're not French, and we don't speak French, or at least I don't. I don't know how you, but
je parlais un peu de français, mais je préfère parler
yeah.
en anglais ou allemand.
But basically, the pronunciation of Le Mans varies, and that's how 24 Hours of Lemons came out. And I think a few years ago, Verde Habsburg had merch together with Parc Fermé for Le Mans, where they did the 24 Hours of Le Mans shirt and they put like lemons on it. It was really funny.
Lots of
So
esports series also do like lemons because like 24 Hours of Le Mans is a trademarked name, so they actually use lemons and have like lemons in their graphics as well. It's kind of funny.
if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform, you're probably seeing lemons on your screen as well, because I will have some fun with that in Canva later. But to stop yapping about lemons and actually start discussing relevant things, we're going to be talking about the biggest endurance race in the world, and that is the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and why you should watch it this year, and who's racing there, and what we're most excited about, and all that. And I'm going to start by saying that I am going to the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year. It's my third time going as a journalist, and it's absolutely crazy. I still cannot believe that that's actually what I get to do. But trust me when I tell you, this is the race you want to experience. This is the race you want to watch. This is the race you want to go to. This is the race. Like, it doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, for sure. I was at Le Mans in 2023 for the centenary, for like the 100-year celebration of Le Mans. It is Teresa was also there. I think it was her first Le Mans.
Yes. It was my first Le
Um,
Mans.
yeah, but there is pictures of us that no one's ever going to get to see, where we are laying on the floor in the freaking fan village, freezing to death.
That's true. It was really freezing, and I don't know why, but I decided to stay the night at the circuit. Last year I didn't. Last year actually, there was a safety car all throughout the night because there was very heavy rain. So around midnight I went back to my accommodation and took nice 6 hours of sleep, and then I went back to the circuit for media breakfast. And the same safety car was still on track, and I was very well rested. So I understand that as a fan, you're not a fan of the safety car being all throughout the night, but when you're actually working there, very nice indeed, because it's a common misconception that the race is just 24 hours. I mean, there is just 24 hours of racing, but you need to arrive early and then you leave late. So it's, I would say, about 40 hours together where you're just working without a break, more or less, unless you
Yeah.
take a nap.
I think some of the crazy photographers like Mark Urban or Jamie Price, they usually stay up all of the 24 hours of the race, which ends up being like a 40-hour day or something, because like you have the stuff before the race and you have the stuff after the race, and you need to get your deliveries out after the race as well. It's freaking crazy. Is my highest respect, not just to them, but also to the drivers and like mechanics and crew and engineers and everything, who are also staying up pretty much all of the 24 hours, most of them at least. It's
But
phenomenal.
same though, is it's I obviously don't really know how it works from the perspective of a photographer, because I'm a journalist. But you start reporting the day of, and then you need once the race finishes, you have so many reports to write, and who won and who didn't win, and there's a lot of it to go through, and not just right after the race finishes. But I think with the race finishing, the work properly starts for you. because you need to summarize everything. And for me, the Monday after Le Mans is always the most busy date because that's where the news is still kind of relevant. But that's, I think, circling back more into our jobs rather than what we're here to talk about. I am gonna say one last thing. I have taken numerous numerous naps under the tables in the media center and during the 24 hours, and it's not comfortable.
Hmm.
It's bad, but it's necessary. Anyways, this year it's gonna be a very exciting one because we've got a lot of manufacturers and we've got a lot of cars, and we're gonna start with hypercars. We're gonna talk about the entries because what is important to mention is that Le Mans does fall under the World Endurance Championships. So you do have all of your WEC full season entries, but you've also got some other entries. You've got entries from IMSA because they have won or they have applied or they have qualified to be racing at the 24 hours of Le Mans in some way. And that's in hypercars because you cannot have any other. They don't race anywhere else besides WEC and IMSA. Then you have the LMP2 category, which doesn't race in WEC anymore, but makes a comeback for the 24 hours of Le Mans, and that's usually from ELMS, but also some IMSA entries, some entries from last year because of them winning, and entries from Asian Le Mans series, and then something very similar applies to GT3. Obviously, you have the full season GT3 entries in IMSA and ELMS and GT World Challenge and so on. So where do we kick this off?
You kind of touched on the ways to get to race in Le Mans. There's like multiple ways there, which we've touched upon very quickly. Like we have the WEC full season entries. Those are all of the cars that are racing in the World Endurance Championships as full season entries, or well, there is not really any guest entries usually during the WEC season. Then you have cars that come from IMSA. Those are usually, or at this point, the cars from previous winners of something like the Daytona 24-hour at the beginning of the year, or they were invited through the manufacturing program, which is why we have like one Porsche and two Cadillacs from IMSA this year in the hypercar category, in addition to the normal full season Cadillacs of Jota and the number 6 and 7 Porsches in WEC. We also have, in addition, this year the number 4 Porsche, which used to be the number 55 last year. Yes?
Number 7 is Toyota.
Number 7 is Toyota. You're totally right. Number 7 is
Number
Porsche
It's
in
number 7 in
4, 5,
IMSA,
and
but in
yeah,
WEC it's gonna be number
4,
4.
5, and 6. Where was I? Yes, IMSA, and you also have some invites in LMP2 and LMGT3 that come from the Endurance Feeder series, such as European Le Mans series or Asian Le Mans series. And you also have like the winner of last year's 24-hour of Le Mans who is invited again to run in LMP2. Same goes for GT3 and so on and so forth. And there is a very special category of cars that only races out of competition at Le Mans. It's usually called something like the Garage 56 entry, which plays like homage to like the number of garages there used to be before they expanded the pit building. And it's some prototype car that runs out of competition, as I said, and it's like the wildest things have been racing under that name. We had like a NASCAR racing in 2023, which was phenomenal. You've probably seen that on our social medias. It sounded insane, and it was faster than some of the GT3 cars, which was also kind of funny. We also had the Nissan Delta Wing, which was like a very experimental prototype concept of a very narrow car that was like really narrow in the front and very wide in the back. It looked like Delta Wing airplane. Yes, and on that topic, Le Mans LMP2 cars still run at Le Mans, which is amazing.
That was very impressive because I just want to, tell the listeners, we do not have any notes for this. We just have a few notes roughly outlining what we want to mention, but this was very impressive. Let's dive into hypercars, shall we? Because that's probably the category that we're going to spend the most time on because it's the most exciting category. As we all know, as you might remember from the World Endurance Championship episode and from the hypercar specific episode we did, hypercars are unique prototypes, unique to each brand, and only race in the World Endurance Championship and IMSA. And as Sebi has mentioned, there are a few IMSA entries in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but those cars have to be adjusted for the WEC regulations, basically. So it's not exactly the same IMSA car that's going to be racing there. But we've got the standard hypercar grid that we are all used to in WEC and 3 extra entries. We've got the Porsche number 4 with current IMSA championship leaders Felipe Nasser and Nick Tandy behind the wheel, and who's going to join them as the third driver, which I think is very interesting, is Pascal Wehrlein, last year's Formula E world champion for Porsche, who's going to be making his debut in Le Mans because he's never raced in Le Mans, and it's going to be his third race in the Porsche 963. I think it's really interesting that Pascal Wehrlein is the one to drive in Le Mans because it's no secret that Porsche downsized their hypercar drivers from last year. Obviously, they said goodbye to Fred Makowiecki and they said goodbye to Andrea Lotterer, who we're going to get back to in a second. And they signed Nico Miller as a works driver who has hypercar experience because he raced with the Peugeot for the past 2 seasons. He has Le Mans experience. He has hypercar Le Mans experience. Yet Nico Miller is not going to race in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which I personally think is a shame. I mean, I understand why Pascal is going to race it, and I think it's amazing that he's going to make his Le Mans debut. And historically, we have seen the third extra Porsche win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The third extra Porsche, meaning Porsche usually has a third extra entry that they do not have in WEC for the full season for Le Mans. And it's not usually the one that you're thinking is going to win the race. And it's not the one that is subjected to win the race. Obviously, the main strategy for Porsche is going to be for either the number 5 or the number 6 to win the race. But that doesn't have to be the case, as we have seen. I've been foreshadowing that for a long time. In 2015, in the LMP1 era, we had the third extra entry. So Porsche LMP1 number 919, because it was the 919 hypercar, not a hypercar, LMP1, sorry, model. And what's really interesting about that lineup is that it had Nico Hülkenberg in the lineup, along with
Hülkenberg.
Yes, exactly. So it was Nico together with Nick Tandy and Earl Bamber. Nick Tandy still with Porsche, still an incredible racing driver, still winning 24-hour races to this day. And they won on debut pretty much because it was Hülkenberg's first Le Mans. It was Earl Bamber's first Le Mans. Not so sure about Nick Tandy, but yeah, Nick Tandy also wasn't a works driver for a very long time. So that was a very interesting one and a funny one. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that nothing is guaranteed. That's the first extra IMSA entry we have on the hypercar grid. And then we've got not 1, but 2 Cadillacs, which means that out of 21 hypercar entries in total, we're going to have 4 Cadillacs, which personally I'm very happy about because I really like the Cadillacs. The sound is amazing and it's so deep and it's so raw and it's very angry, and I like when it sounds angry. So besides the 2 full season Jota entries, we're going to have the number 101 Wayne Taylor Racing with IMSA drivers Felipe Albuquerque Jordan Taylor and Ricky Taylor.
That's the
And
silver
then
car, which has a fantastic livery, one of the best liveries on the grid right now.
in IMSA, yeah. I think it's really funny that we're going to have for Cadillacs, 2 of them are going to be gold and 1 of them is going to be silver.
And the other one is red.
Yeah, the 4th one is red. The 311 Cadillac Whelan with Jack Aitken, Felipe Drogovic, and Fred Vesti, which if you watched Feeder Series 3 or 4 years ago, I think you're fangirling about this lineup. This is the IMSA lineup. In IMSA, together with them, there's Earl Bamber, but he's obviously racing with Jota in Le Mans. So we'll see what they can do because they're a strong lineup as well, and they did really, really well in the 24 Hours of Daytona. But they haven't got Bamber with them, and I feel like Bamber is the one who's kind of leading them because he has the most experience with the car. So I don't know if has like a sort of a coaching role in IMSA or something, but we'll see. We'll see how they go. I'm really excited to see them race because it's going to be Le Mans debut for Fred Vesti in a hypercar, and Jack Aitken and Felipe Drogovic have obviously raced with the Cadillac hypercar last year in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So we'll see. I think it's going to be really cool.
Definitely. Le Mans is always going to be cool if the weather plays nicely. Next up, should we talk about the LMP2s that are entering? I just go through the list very quickly and then we'll talk about a few in detail. We have the Iron Lynx Proton Oreca. Okay, I'm not gonna mention the manufacturer of their Oreca cars. So that's Iron Lynx Proton Competition, RLR M Sport, IDEX Sport, United Autosports, Nielsen Racing, Algarve Pro Racing, another IDEX Sport, TDS Racing, Inter Europol Competition, CLX Pure Racing, Inter Europol Competition again, Algarve Racing again, VDS Pani Racing, AF Corse, and AO by TF Sport Racing or not racing.
So what is interesting about the LMP2 field is that we have 2 very different directions that the drivers come from. I feel like there's a lot of older drivers, older meaning like 30 plus. It's motorsport. They're not that old.
Dentists.
Not necessarily, but 30 plus drivers who have been racing in other racing series, and that their main engagements are in other racing series, and they're just doing Le Mans because they can. Some of the names that kind of stand out are Andrea Lotterer, who's replacing Dani Ugadea in the IDEX Sport number 18, which obviously they race in ELMS. But Dani Ugadea races with Corvette in GT3 in WEC, so he's going to be replaced by Andrea Lotterer. This is in preparation for the Genesis Magma Racing hypercar program next year. We've got Renger van der Zande. We've got who also races in IMSA full time in LMP2. We've got Tom Blomqvist, who races with the Acura in IMSA usually. We've got Antonio Felix da Costa, who races in Formula E. We've got Louis Deletras, who races with Cadillac in IMSA. We've got a lot of different interesting names in the LMP2 grid, and then you've got your standard LMP2 drivers like Theo Pourchaire, Clement Novalak, Luca Chiotto,
Pietro
and so on.
Fittipaldi.
Pietro Fittipaldi, and so on. So I think it's going to be an interesting mix of classic LMP2 drivers and then drivers who are just not usually doing LMP2, if you understand where I'm coming from.
I'm just excited to see that we have a woman racing in LMP2 again, in the form of Jamie Chadwick. We love her. It's fantastic to see her doing very well in ELMS together with her co-drivers. And it's one of our top picks for the LM2 win this year, for sure.
For sure, because Jamie Chadwick and her teammate, I'm so sorry, I'm going to butcher that name, Mathis how do you say that?
Mathis Joubert, I think.
Mathis Joubert. they've been insanely strong in ELMS. They're absolutely dominating in ELMS. And I think with the experience that Andrea Lotterer has at Le Mans, yes, it will be his LMP2 debut. Yes, first time racing LMP2 in Le Mans. However, I think he has a lot of experience to bring to the table, and he's a proven 24 Hours of Le Mans race winner because he's won 3 times with Audi. Last year, he started from pole position in the Porsche hypercar. So if there's someone who knows how to win Le Mans, it's Andrea Lotterer, and I love that he's in the lineup with Jamie Chadwick. And genuinely, if all goes well, I think they're my top pick to win this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I'm so excited to see them race. I think this is the absolute best preparation Genesis could be doing for their hypercar debut next year. And I truly hope that Jamie manages to keep this momentum and get that hypercar drive next year.
Yeah, she has. I mean, it would be the next logical step. I can't imagine any other reason why they are putting her in that car, but to race and in WEC next year with the hypercar. And I mean, she has been posting pictures of her driving Genesis cars for quite some time now. I think it's a public secret that she's gonna do WEC next year with Genesis.
But she's also been doing a lot of testing with Jaguar TCS Racing and Formula E. And it feels like, from at least the social media content that we've been seeing, I feel like she's getting affiliated with the team a lot. So I think it would be super cool if she was doing some sort of like double program of Formula E and hypercar. Insane step for women in motorsport. And I truly do hope that that will happen. And you mentioned that we've got a woman in LMP2 finally. We used to have Dorian Pan in LMP2. She did Le Mans
Yeah,
2
of course.
years ago
Right. I
with
didn't
Emma.
say I didn't say for the first time. I said again.
No, I know, you said back. And so we had Dorian Pan.
Yes.
And back in the day, like what, 4 years ago, we had the all-female lineup of Richard Mille Racing, where we had Tatiana Calderon, Bates Gavisser, and Sophia Flörsch racing in LMP2, and I feel like that was really cool. We've had Lilo Vadou in LMP2. She is racing again in Le Mans this year, but in GT3. So we've got 5 women in total racing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is not the most we have had historically, but it's nevertheless a step in the right direction.
Definitely. Moving on to LMGT3, I'm not gonna cover every car that we have. I will just cover the cars that we have new for um the 24 hour. We have an additional Corvette from AWA Racing from Canada, coming from IMSA. We have the Kessel Racing Ferrari. Kessel Racing is a very well-known brand, customer brand for Ferrari. Coming from ELMS, we have an additional Iron Lynx Mercedes GT3 coming from ELMS. We have a additional Porsche coming from Manthey Racing, which will be the purple Porsche Racing from Asian Le Mans series. Then we have another Ferrari from ELMS in form of the Richard Mille AF Corse, and from GT World Challenge, the Ziggo Sport Tempesta Ferrari GT3.
We've got a lot of Ferraris in the GT3 grid.
We do. Six Ferraris, I think, if I'm counting correctly.
5.
5? 5.
Is it not? Yeah, it's 5 Ferraris, which is a lot, because otherwise you've got
No, yeah, it's 5. Never mind. Yeah, 5.
3 from each manufacturer, more or less, 2 or 3 of each manufacturer. That will be really cool. It's really hard to predict a GT3 generally. I would personally really like it to be the Chevrolet Corvette by TF Sport, the number 33, Johnny Edgar, Danny Juncada, and Ben Keating, because they've been insanely fast, and in my opinion, they're the fastest lineup of the season. And I spoke to Ben Keating in Spa, and he wasn't really happy about the BOP distribution, but obviously they're not really allowed to talk about that, but he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy that they're slow. And he said that it's just a waste of time in his opinion, and you can actually like read that in many articles. He said that on record. And it's a bit of a shame because they really are the strongest lineup. And when you go to this championship, obviously you want to have the best car and the best lineup, and they feels like they're getting punished for the fact that they do, which is a shame. And I really do hope that it gets better for Le Mans, because if there's someone who knows how to win in GT3 in Le Mans, or GTE, or in GTs in Le Mans, it's Ben Keating. And Johnny Edgar and Danny Juncker are very strong drivers. So I really do hope that they're the ones who come with a triumph in the 24 hours of Le Mans.
If Porsche gets a good BOP, I would also not count out the ALMS entry, the third Porsche, because they have Klaus Bachler, and Klaus Bachler is an insanely strong driver. He has won IMSA and like the 24 Hour of Daytona in the past, and he's on the car with Antares Au from I think Hong Kong, and like Hartog, which is a younger driver, I think. But he has won races in Porsche Carrera Cup North America and Endurance Challenge, GT World Challenge Europe. He's also very fast, so we'll see how that plays out. But all dependent on BOP this year. It's going to be hit or miss if we have a good bot or not.
We'll see. The BOP obviously is supposed to make it more fair, and I feel like this year in WEC, they changed the style of which they're like achieving the BOP, which in my opinion has been better, and we've seen a lot of close racing in hypercars and in GT3 as well. Obviously it's never 100% the best, but I feel like it's really good, and the championship has taken a step into the right direction. But
They
those
just
were
need to slow down the Ferraris in hypercar, and that's all there is, because they're way too fast right now. Or the others are just too slow. Who knows?
your words.
I mean, we're gonna get attacked by the Ferrari fans for that probably, but I want close racing, so I don't care if they have to slow down Ferrari. I just want fair
Your words,
competition.
not mine. Your words, not mine. So that's the entries, and I think now we could move on a little bit to how Le Mans organizationally works or doesn't work. If you're going as a fan, it's pretty chaotic. It's pretty chaotic. You have to plan in advance. There's a lot of things happening. But assuming you're not going to Le Mans this year, since you're listening to this podcast preview, we urge you to watch the entire 24 hours. It sounds scary to sit down and watch the 24 hours, but I promise you, you're going to be completely mesmerized by this. It's incredible racing. It's so
Especially the
beautiful.
night racing.
Especially the night racing. Le Mans is a very hard track, and everyone wants to win it. And any driver on the grid will tell you, I want to win Le Mans, except for Ferrari. I want to win Le Mans. I spoke to many, many drivers after or during this past 6 hours weekend, and all of them told me we want to win Le Mans. Porsche wants to win Le Mans. Cadillac wants to win Le Mans. Earl Bamber told me I'd rather not have a podium in any race but win Le Mans, which is so valid. And he has won Le Mans twice already. Ferrari, on the other hand, Nicholas Nielsen told me that they're prioritizing winning the championship over Le Mans, but Le Mans is still a very big addition of points, and you do want to, get the points from Le Mans. So it'll be close, but I'm guaranteeing you every single driver on this grid wants to win Le Mans more than anything else. Most of these drivers, such as Jenson Button, they're doing this championship just so they can race and win in Le Mans. So it has insane historical significance.
The watch
This
alone is worth winning Le Mans. The famous Le Mans 24-hour Rolex Daytona watch. Not Daytona, the watch is called Daytona. It's the same one they get for winning Daytona, but like with a different engraving on the back. It's a really cool watch and very rare and very expensive if you sell it.
That's true. This is the 93rd running of this iconic race. the track is beautiful. There's a lot of straights, but also a lot of like risky corners, if we
One of
call
the
it that.
longest straights in motorsports, or used to be. Now they have 2 chicanes in there to slow the cars down a bit so they're not coming flying down the straight at like 400 kph and killing their brakes at the end of the straight.
Or quite literally flying. I think Mark Webber could tell you something about that.
Yeah, not just Mark Webber.
Not just Mark Webber. But that's the first one who came to mind.
Yeah.
Why is the car vertical?
Oh.
Um, I think we've covered it all.
We could talk about the scheduling of the Le Mans 24 Hour this year, which is like kind of pain for pretty much everyone involved, because like all of the big 24-hour races this year are literally within 3 weeks of each other.
I think it's out of competition. They want to show who's the most dominant championship, because the thing is, every single driver that races, like every single GT driver wants to do all of them. Every single
Yeah.
hypercar driver wants to do all of them in either GT or hypercar. I mean, those are the races to win. You've got the 24 hours of Le Mans. A week later, you've got the 24 hours of Nürburgring, and a week later, you've got the 24 hours of Spa. What's specific to the Nürburgring is that you need a special license, the permit, to be able to race there. And we spent about 30 minutes before recording this podcast trying to figure out which drivers do not like a license and which do not. The answer is not that many. And even though they have a license or do have the permit, doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the 24 hours of Nürburgring. And so there's not that many of them that are doing it. However, there are obviously a lot of drivers that are doing it, and then there are a lot of drivers who will be doing all 3 of these races, which is insane. And the first name that comes to mind is Jules Gounod, who's going to be doing the 24 hours of Le Mans in Alpine, and then a week later Nürburgring in Mercedes, and a week later this 24 hours of Spa in Mercedes. I cannot begin to imagine how insanely exhausting this will be, because it's 3 back-to-back 24-hour races.
Yeah, he's gonna just fall to sleep and sleep for like a week after, probably.
No, he's not, because he's got DTM a week after the 24 hours of Spa.
Well, he can sleep for like 3 days at least.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, they're racing through the weekend. They start racing on Saturday, they finish racing on Sunday. But it's not just that. Le Mans is a circus, and it starts more than a week ahead. They come in the Thursday, so what, like 9 days before the race starts, they come to Le Mans and they start building it. And there's testing the weekend before, because usually you do have some sort of like testing or qualifiers or something for the 24-hour race. Not in Le Mans, they come the weekend before. They do testing, they do scrutineering, which is a very nice event. The scrutineering is in the center, the historical center of Le Mans, which is a very nice little town. Super interesting, super cool.
Driver's parade is also in the middle of the city.
Yes, but that's a few days later.
Yeah.
There's the scrutineering, there's the test laps, they do some testing. Then they don't usually do anything on Monday, Tuesday, but they kind of still have to be in Le Mans. And then Wednesday is media day and pre-practice day. Thursday is qualifying day and media day. You've got a lot of media days on the week of the 24 hours of Le Mans. On Friday, there's the driver parade, and there's no racing. There's no racing on Friday, or nothing on track on Friday, the day before the race starts. You've got the driver parade. The track is open usually, or a segment of it. The pit lane is open to fans. You can come, you can hang out, you can see the cars, which I think is super cool considering how big this event is. But then again, the amounts of people kind of distribute, because some really want to go to see the drivers at the parade and the others stay at the track. Personally, I've done both, and both are insanely cool experiences. And yeah, then you start racing on Saturday about midday, and then stop racing on Sunday.
There's also like lots of events for fans that don't have to do with motorsports. Like there's 3 concerts that you can go to. Like in 2023 when I attended Le Mans, Mika was playing a full 90-minute concert for free, which was amazing. Um, and there's usually also fireworks. There's the famous Ferris wheel and everything. It's like a huge, huge, huge event, and you can distract yourself very good from if you need like a hour break or something from racing. Even the drivers sometimes.
That's completely correct. And there's so many things. There's a huge fan zone and there's a lot of places to go just to hang out. And there's a lot of showrooms and merch places and cool different activities that you can do. There's electric karting last year. There's literally anything you can think of you can probably do at the
Good
24 Hours
food.
of Le Mans. Expensive, but good food.
Yeah, actually pricing was more fair than in Spa last weekend.
But I think that's it. Once again, we do urge you to watch the 24 Hours of Le Mans. You will not regret it. Make sure to follow us on our social media because, as we have mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I am going to the 24 Hours of Le Mans and I will be doing creating a lot of content for my personal social media, but also for everything endurance racing and a few other media outlets. So make sure to follow that and to check that out. As always, everything will be linked in the description. Sebi will take care of that. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media. Sebi will link everything. And yeah, see you at the next podcast, which will be about another 24-hour race, which we will talk about in 2 weeks.
Exactly. See ya in 2 weeks. Bye bye.
Bye.